Hey, Mazza here, back for another episode of MazzaOnSports. It is Super Bowl Sunday. We talk about the big game here today. It is freezing cold outside if you're especially living up here in the Northeast. So wherever you are, wherever you may be, please stay warm and stay inside because it is freezing. I'm up here in New York. It is single digits to teens. But luckily today, you can all sit back, relax, and enjoy what will hopefully be a really good game between the Seattle Seahawks and the New England Patriots in Super Bowl 60. Lots to get into about the game, lots to talk about this game. This game is very interesting to me. Very interesting to me. So we'll break that down before I make a prediction for the game, and I'll make a prediction for who I think will win Super Bowl MVP. We'll also talk about a little bit of the NFL honors on Thursday, the awards given out, and the MVP, defensive player, the offensive player of the year, the whole shebang. We'll talk about the Hall of Fame and the new NFL Hall of Famers name that will be enshrined into this year's class come August in Canton, Ohio. And of course, we'll talk about a little bit of wrestling, the CM Punk Roman Reigns segment on Raw, and the WrestleMania WrestleMania intentions for that match. But we begin today, of course, with the Super Bowl tonight. The Super Bowl kicks off at 4:00, around 4:00 now on the East Coast here. The game kicks off in about 2.5 hours. So we'll begin today with the Super Bowl with the Seahawks and the Patriots. This, to me, it's very much a throwback game. It's very much a throwback game to me, a throwback matchup of these two teams that are pretty much identically built. This isn't the current modern, team that is high-powered offense, with a defense that maybe is not bad, but certainly isn't anything special. Anything special. They just make plays and make big plays when they have to. This certainly is, and this also is a game of two quarterbacks that you wouldn't say are quote unquote, elite. I don't like to throw that word around, but you wouldn't say these guys are quote unquote elite or in the top five. But again, I don't like to throw the word elite around. I think that's thrown around way too much. Between Sam Darnold and Drake May, these are two quarterbacks that are, a little bit, are both good and are both make big throws, both fit the teams and fit the systems that they run. They fit the mentality that they play. They play good. They play good. They throw the ball when they have. They throw the ball deep. They roll out. They move. They do play action really well. They run the football, hand it off. So, and they drop back. They can make throws down the field. They can make smart decisions. These are both two quarterbacks that are just pretty darn good, right? They're not great, or at least not yet, but they're pretty darn good. And they're at least, if you want to rank them, at least in the top 10 or maybe just slightly outside the top 10. This isn't Patrick Mahomes speeding up. This isn't Mahomes in the Super Bowl. This isn't Joe Burrow in the Super Bowl. This isn't, I know he's getting a lot of flack right now this season, but Jalen Hurts in the Super Bowl. These aren't premier elite, premier names. These are two guys that you go, oh yeah, they're pretty darn good, but but that's the thing. They're good and they get the job done for their teams, even though they may not put up flashy numbers. And I say this about Drake May. It's still true. It is true about him, even though he was, second. Again, we got to the NFL honors. Even though he was an MVP candidate throughout the season, he didn't really put up eye-popping numbers. Drake May, he didn't make it, but he still put up really good numbers, And like I said, they did exactly what their teams need them to do on offense. So they're both similarly built in terms of quarterback play, and they're similarly built with their offenses, but their strength is their defense. And this is where the throwback stuff really comes into play. These are two teams with defensive mentalities, defensive head coaches, in an era of offense, high scoring games, high scoring offenses, high powered passing attacks, quarterbacks throwing the ball 35 to 40 times a game, throwing 45 or so touchdown passes. These are two teams that win on defense and win on physicality up front and win by getting after the quarterback. These are two teams that are pretty much built the same exact way. So it's like I said, this is a throwback game. If you liked that era like I did, I like that era as well, then you're gonna like this game a lot. But if you're a person who enjoyed the high scoring offenses and love that stuff, this might not be the game for you, but it's a throwback game. These are two teams built the same exact way. Strong defense, strong up front, pass rush, strong secondaries, and they win games with their physicality, and they win games tackling really well, and they win games with may not be an offense that's going to wow you, but is going to be balanced. They beat you with play action. They beat you with drop back passes, ball control offense, get first downs, take points when you have to. These teams are built the same exact way. They really are. So that's why this game is very interesting to me. This game is very interesting to me in terms of that. It's cool to see that. It is. It's cool to see kind of a game where you have two teams built like this. It's very cool to see that. And we saw, and we kind of, and who knows, maybe we are on the cusp of getting out of the era of the high scoring offenses, all that stuff, because last year the Philadelphia Eagles won the Super Bowl with an offense that again was good and had Saquon run the ball for over 2,000 yards, and Jalen Hurts made a lot of big plays and big throws. But again, the offense didn't wow you, but they were good and they got the job done. Their team overall, their biggest strength was their defense, and their defense got after Patrick Mahomes, and they won that game handily because their defense was so good and their offense was balanced, and they did well there. So maybe, and now you have two teams that are kind of built like the Philadelphia Eagles were last year. So who knows? Maybe we're now getting out of the era of got to score 35, 40, 45 points a game, ignore the defense, throw the ball 50 times a game, ignore the defense, go from there. Maybe we are starting to get out of that era. But then again, this was a very interesting season, a very odd season in general, where defense kind of ruled the day. Like I said before in previous shows, this was a throwback season where defense kind of ruled the season. It kind of ruled the day in the 2025 season compared to the past few seasons for several years now, where it's been offense. This year, the defense was the story of the season this year. And now you have two teams in the Super Bowl that are essentially their identity is defense. Their identity is defense with the Seahawks and the New England Patriots. Let's go through the matchups. I'll go through the matchups of each team, who has the advantage, coaching, quarterback, receiver, defense, etc., before I make a prediction for the game. One last thing. I think this game is going to come down to the quarterbacks. It's going to come down to who makes the bigger throw. Will it be Sam Darnold or will it be Drake May? Who will turn the football over? Will it be Sam Darnold, who has been known for turnovers, or will it be Drake May? It's this game. A game like this will come down to the quarterbacks. It will come down to Darnold and it will come down to Drake May. Whoever takes care of the ball better, their team will win. That's where this game is going to come down to. I know that's very simple and very cliche, but it's true, especially for a game like this. It's going to be decided up front in the trenches with these teams' defenses. It's going to be decided with Darnold and Drake May not turning ball control offense, keeping the ball throwing the ball to their receivers, getting the ball to their receivers, and not turning the football over and taking care of the ball. It's going to be up to them. So whoever does a better job taking care of the football and not turning it over will win this game between Sam Darnold and Drake May. Speaking of Sam Darnold and Drake May, well, first I get to the advantage there, we'll get to the coaches, Mike Macdonald and Mike Vrabel. I actually think the advantage, believe it or not, goes to Mike Vrabel. Vrabel, while has never coached a Super Bowl, and certainly there's a huge difference between coaching and winning and playing in a Super Bowl, he has been in a Super Bowl. He's been in multiple Super Bowls as a player with the New England Patriots. Mike Macdonald has never been to a Super Bowl. Now, he's had success, and he's had success at Seattle. He had success at Baltimore. He had success at Michigan as assistant coaches and coordinators. But he's never been here. He's never been to a Super Bowl. Now, he just beat a Super Bowl champion head coach in Sean McVay in the NFC Championship game. So maybe that point's moot, but this is different. This is the Super Bowl. This is the biggest game of the season you're going to play all year long. Mike Vrabel has been here. This is nothing new to Mike Vrabel. He's both won a Super Bowl, multiple, and he's lost a Super Bowl. Mike Vrabel has been here as a player. This is nothing new to him. For Mike Macdonald, this is new. This is brand new. Everything that Macdonald has been through this season has been brand new, essentially. So this is now the big one. and he's playing a head coach who, while may not be a Super Bowl head coach, up until now, did play in the Super Bowl as a player. And I do think there's an advantage to that. I do think there's an advantage to that. There is an advantage to you being a player, and then playing and then coaching in the Super Bowl, playing in the Super Bowl and then coaching in the Super Bowl as a player. I think there is an advantage to that because you can relate that to your team. You can relate that to your team. You can relate that to your players. You could bring that out to your players because, for the Patriots, a lot of them, obviously, Milton Williams aside, obviously, have never played in the Super Bowl. Drake May, Stephon Diggs, most of these guys, aside from a select few, have never played in the Super Bowl. But Mike Vrabel, their head coach, he has. He has played in the Super Bowl. He knows what it takes to win. He's been there before. Mike McDonald, we can't really relate that to his players, because, again, most of his players have never been. Sam Darnold, Leonard Williams, Jackson Smith. Now, Cooper Kupp has. That's a big one. Cooper Kupp can be the one. Cooper Kupp is going to have to be the one to relate that to the players. He's been there. He's been on the losing side of it and the winning side of it, losing to the Patriots, then beating the Bengals. He's been on both sides of it. So Cooper Kupp is really the one player that can tell the Seahawks, hey guys, this is what playing in the Super Bowl is like. So McDonald, I think, and I'm sure he's leaned on it throughout these last 2 weeks, he's leaned on Cooper Kupp to tell the players, guys like Sam and Leonard and Kenneth Walker and Smith-Njigba, hey guys, this is what it is to be playing in the Super Bowl. This is what it means to play in the Super Bowl. I've been there. I got a ring. I both lost it and I both won it. So Cooper Kupp, I'm sure they've leaned on over the last 2 weeks. But Mike Vrabel, he's not only played in the Super Bowl and won it multiple times, he's also, and lost one, he's also done it for the same team he's coaching with right now. He's done it for the same team he's coaching on right now. So he now can represent that to about himself and represent about the tradition of the Patriots, or the tradition that has started over the last 30 years. And he can show the team and show the players, hey guys, this is what it means to be a New England Patriot. I've been here. I've been there. I've done it for this franchise. This is what it means to be a New England Patriot. Let's go be the latest team to bring to that tradition. So I actually think Vrabel has the advantage here over Mike McDonald in this game. Even though McDonald, I think, has done a great job, I think Vrabel has the advantage coaching-wise coming into this game just because of that. Quarterback, I think it goes to Sam Darnold. And while Darnold certainly, again, has had his – and I don't think Darnold will play as well as he did against the Rams. This is a different team, different defense. Patriots have had 2 weeks to prepare for him. I don't think – and he already had seen the Rams 2 times prior. That was his third time playing the Rams. I don't think he'll have that incredible – now, if he does, wow. But I think Sam – is going to probably go through some bumps today in this game against the Patriots. Again, good defense. But Drake May is playing the best defense he's played all season long. Now, I know he did that. I know they beat Denver before, but that was also snow, blizzard, backup quarterback playing for the Broncos. The Patriots, again, did what they do best, play ball control offense, run the ball, etc. But this is not going to be that way anymore. But this is not going to be the case. There's no blizzard. There's no snow. There's no, Drew Lock is now playing quarterback. This is going to be a big, big test for Drake May against that great Seahawk defense. So we'll see what happens. But that's why I give the advantage to Darnold. Again, it's not by a lot, but I give it to Darnold here. I think Darnold will be the one to make just one more big play, one more big throw in this game. Offensive line-wise, I'll give it to New England. I think they're a little bit tougher. They're more physical, and they run the football better, which is why I give them the advantage in the running game. Their running game, again, Kenneth Walker stepped up and did a really good job. He did a very good job the other day in the NFC Championship, in the NFC title game. But New England with Stevenson and Henderson, I think they will. I think they can run the football. They're going to have to. They're going to have to run the football effectively against that Seahawks defense to set up play action for Drake May. Who has the advantage at receiver and tight end? I think it's the Seahawks. It's easily Seattle. And I think Jackson Smith-Njigba could be the X factor here in this game. Cooper Kupp also, because, again, this is his third Super Bowl he's playing in. He's been here. He knows what it takes to win. This is his third Super Bowl. I think Cooper Kupp and Jackson Smith-Njigba will be the big X factors in this game for Sam Darnold and the Seahawks if they want to win this football game. Defensive wise overall, again, tough. Two very good defenses. It's awesome to see these two really good defenses going at each other, and I think they're going to have a battle. And I think these two units are going to be the ones that determine this game overall in general. I just think Seattle's defense is too good. I think Seattle's defense is too good. They're too talented. Lawrence, Murphy, Leonard Williams up front, Ernest Jones. Watch for Ernest Jones to make a huge impact. And if he does, he might win Super Bowl MVP. Watch for Ernest Jones tonight. Christian Gonzalez, etc. This is, Christian Gonzalez on the other side, New England. Julian Love, of course. Nick Amunawari, we'll see it now. That's a big one. We'll see how healthy he is. Of course, he's going to play. This is the Super Bowl. He ain't missing that. His leg could have been shattered and he would have played. But we'll see how. I think Mike Vrabel is going to attack him early to test him. I also think if the Patriots are smart, they will defend and double team Jackson Smith-Njigba and force Sam to throw the ball to Cooper Kupp and his other receivers like Rashid Shaheed, who obviously Shaheed has been such a big factor on special teams. And that's another one that I look for if I'm the Patriots and be aware of. Rashid Shaheed, again, he may not be the biggest factor on offense receiving wise. He can still make plays with the speed, but his biggest factor, kick and punt return. Cover him, contain him, because if he makes big plays, the Seahawks are in business and the Patriots will be in trouble. And they'll, so watch for Shaheed. So I think that's what I think the Seahawks, that's what I think the Patriots are going to have to do. They're going to have to double up Jackson Smith-Njigba and force the ball to be spread to other places like Cooper and Shaheed. Not to say New England doesn't have good receivers. Again, I think Stephon Diggs and Kayshon Boutte can be pretty good here. But again, I think they're going to have Mac Hollins obviously could use his speed down the field. It can stretch the ball down the field. But I think they're going to be in for a tough task against a very physical Seahawk defense and Seahawk secondary that tackles really well. So I think Seattle's defense gets the edge over New England's defense. Special teams, I'll give it also to Seattle as well. Myers has been so good. They play very sound special teams. So I'll give it to Seattle and special teams as well. My prediction for the game tonight and my prediction for Super Bowl MVP, I am picking the Seattle Seahawks 26-20. I think it'll be close. I think it'll be down to the wire. I think Darnold will make one more big throw than Drake May does. And I think the Seahawk defense on the last drive against the Patriots, as the Patriots are going to drive down the field, try to score, will make one last stop to win this game. I think throughout this game, May is going to be disrupted by that Seahawks pass rush. And I think Darnold will get the ball to Smith-Njigba and Cooper Kupp as much as he can. I think he'll make the big throws when he has to. And I think the Seahawks will try to run the football, but I don't think neither team will run the football well today. If there will be one, it will be the Patriots. But I will pick the Seahawks to win 26-20. It'll be very close. And I will pick Sam Darnold to win Super Bowl MVP. I think he'll have a couple of touchdowns. I think he's been hot. He's been hot all year. He's had two very good postseason games. It just feels like tonight is his night. And it feels like I think he will help propel the Seahawks to a Super Bowl championship win and win Super Bowl MVP. Like I said, watch for Darnold, watch for Smith-Njigba, watch for DeMarcus Lawrence, watch for Ernest Jones, and even watch for Leonard Williams in this game to be key players for the Seattle Seahawks. And I think the Seahawks win the Super Bowl 26-20 tonight. But it should be a very good, very fun, interesting game. Like I said, it's cool. It's cool to see kind of a throwback game. It's kind of cool to see us. It wasn't that long ago. It wasn't. Trust me, I was there. It wasn't that long ago, but it definitely feels like it was a long time ago where we had two teams like this match up in a Super Bowl. And they're both built the same way. It's cool to see that again. Because it felt like we had gone away from it. We had gone away from defense first, defense oriented, running the football, play action pass. It felt like we got away from that for a bit, but for a while, but it looks like this year it made a return, and that's even last year, the Philadelphia Eagles, like I said. So even the last 2 years, I would say it looks like it made a return, which is cool. But it should be a good, fun game. I just think Seattle is too good. New England's had a very good run. They've had a very good run, the Patriots. They won the AFC in a wide open conference, but it just feels like Seattle's year. It just feels like the Seahawks' year. And I think Seattle wins their Super Bowl, be their second Super Bowl of their franchise history. So should be a fun game, though. We'll go to the NFL honors and the Hall of Fame. We'll first do the Hall of Fame class. Adam Vinatieri, obviously, I mean, that's the guy that's, in my opinion, the best kicker ever of all time. That's an easy one. Roger Craig in the Hall of Fame. Good for him. Long time coming. Should have been in years ago. Larry Fitzgerald, obviously, one of the best receivers of all time. In an era with Randy Moss and Terrell Owens and Steve Smith and Chad Johnson, Calvin Johnson, Larry Fitzgerald was just a master of consistency, and he did it with so many different quarterbacks. I mean, let's go through, folks. Let's go for argument's sake. Let's go through all the quarterbacks that this man had throughout the course of his career. Obviously, we know about Kurt Warner. Obviously, we know about Carson Palmer. Obviously, we know about Kyler Murray. But let's just in total for one more time, because obviously everyone's, I'm sure, has gone through it throughout, ever since Fitzgerald was named as a finalist for the Hall of Fame. The quarterbacks that Larry Fitzgerald has gone through: Josh McCown, Sean King, John Navarre, Kurt Warner, Josh McCown, Matt Leinart, Kurt Warner, Matt Leinart. I'm going through a yearly basis. Kurt Warner, Matt Leinart, Derek Anderson, John Skelton, Max Hall, Kevin Cobb, John Skelton, Kevin Cobb, Ryan Lilly, Brian Hoyer, Carson Palmer, Drew Stanton, Carson Palmer, Ryan Lilly, Carson Palmer, Drew Stanton, Carson Palmer, Blaine Gabbert, Drew Stanton, Josh Rosen, Sam Bradford, Kyler Murray. A boatload of quarterbacks that this man has had throughout the course of his career. And he, like I said, was just the master of consistency. And he's just one of those guys that you wish would have gotten a Super Bowl ring. You wish. Larry Fitzgerald is one of the greatest players who's ever played the game that's never won a Super Bowl. And that touchdown in Super Bowl 43, I'll never forget, because I really felt like the Cardinals would win that Super Bowl until Roethlisberger, Santonio Holmes made one of the best throws and catches you'll ever see in a Super Bowl. Plays, throws, catches you'll see in a Super Bowl. But congrats to Fitzgerald. Luke Kuechly in the Hall of Fame. Again, not particularly, kind of like Patrick Willis. Not a very long career for Luke Kuechly from 2012 to 2019. So like Patrick Willis, not a very long career. But very productive. Defensive Player of the Year, Defensive Rookie of the Year, 5-time First-Team All-Pro, 2-time Second-Team All-Pro, 7-time Pro Bowler, led the league in tackles twice, the 2010s All-Decade Team, PFWA All-Rookie Team. The guy was just one of the best linebackers in the game from the period he played in 2012, 2019. I mean, he was the best middle linebacker in the game from the time he played. So yeah, again, not a long career, so to speak, but it was very good. It was still great. He had great years, kind of like Kurt Warner, right? Not all the way like Kurt Warner, but I kind of look at it like Kurt Warner, because Warner had Kurt Warner's career was kind of 5.5 to 6 good years, but they were great years of MVPs and the Super Bowl and Super Bowl appearances and stuff like that. So, but Kuechly, again, not a long career, but a Hall of Fame worthy career. Not as long a career as, say, other middle linebackers like, say, Ray Lewis or Brian Urlacher or Mike Singletary, Dick Butkus, etc., but still a very productive career that is worthy of the Hall of Fame. Zach Thomas, another one, but still an incredibly productive career that's worthy of the Hall of Fame. So congrats to Luke Kuechly. And of course, Drew Brees. Everyone knew Drew Brees was getting in the moment he retired in the first ballot Hall of Famer. Everyone knew he was getting in. So Brees, what he became, one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, when after his Chargers career ended with the shoulder injury, they drafted Rivers the year before. He goes to New Orleans, a team that just obviously was just in desperate need of something positive. Obviously in the wake of Hurricane Katrina, bringing a new head coach, bringing in a new quarterback. This team in the city of New Orleans needed some uplifting, and Brees and Peyton and the Saints brought that to the city of New Orleans, and it culminated in that Super Bowl. Magical run in 2006, and it culminated the run in 2009 to win the franchise's first Super Bowl. So again, congrats to Drew Brees, like one of the best quarterbacks of all time. But again, and now obviously you look at the guys who didn't make it. That's obviously been the big story. Belichick didn't get in first ballot. That's a whole other thing. I talked about in the last show. He's first ballot guy. I don't know how you leave the greatest head coach of all time down the Hall of Fame. Bob Kraft also didn't get in first ballot, and again, you would think he would because he's been one of the best and most successful owners in the NFL. But I guess he got caught the same thing that Belichick did. Eli Manning, obviously, with Drew Brees in, he was never going to get in the Hall of Fame this year. I know that's, again, been a topic of debate, whether Eli Manning should be in the Hall of Fame or not. I think Eli Manning is a Hall of Famer. I think Eli will get in eventually. It's just tough because last year, this year was Drew Brees, right? That was Drew Brees. Brees, statistically, numbers-wise, was better than Eli. Eli may have more Super Bowl rings and Super Bowl MVPs than Drew Brees does, but Brees has the numbers. He has the statistics. He has a Super Bowl and a Super Bowl MVP to go with the numbers. So that's why Brees got in before Eli did. Next year is going to be Ben Roethlisberger. Ben Roethlisberger, same thing. Has won 2 Super Bowls and been to another one. He's also got better numbers and better statistics. Ben's getting in first ballot next year. It's nothing against Eli, but it's nothing against Eli. It's just that the voters are going to vote in guys who had better numbers than Eli over Eli. But I do think Eli Manning is a Hall of Famer. I think Eli is going to get in eventually. It's just with the quarterbacks ahead of him, it was going to take some time. And I also knew that he was not getting in first ballot. Eli was just not the quarterback that I felt would get in first ballot. And again, I say this as a guy who loves Eli Manning. I really like and respect Eli Manning. I think Eli was a darn good quarterback, and he's very deserving of the Hall of Fame. But they were never going to put him in first ballot, and they were never going to put him in over Drew Brees, and they're not going to put him in over Ben Roethlisberger. And then the following year, Tom Brady is going to get in, first. Well, who knows now? Belichick and Kraft didn't get in first ballot, so who knows? Maybe Brady is getting shafted too. Who knows? But Eli, I think, will eventually get in. It's just going to have to be a couple of years. But he'll get his day in Canton. Obviously, I have to talk about the Ravens and guys who are left out like Marshall Yant and Terrell Suggs. I personally think those guys should have been in already. Yanda was one of the best, if not Yanda was the best offensive lineman in the game in his prime. Terrell Suggs is top 5, top 6, top 7, I think, all time in sacks. He should be in by now. But they were both left out of the Hall of Fame again for the second or so year in a row. I think they will eventually get in, but looks like it might have to be a couple of years for Suggs or Yanda. I could see one of them getting in next year. I could certainly see one of them getting in next year. Maybe Suggs gets in next year. Who else was left out? Again, Steve Smith, Anquan Bolden, Torrey Holt, I think should have been in years ago, but that's another topic for another day. But still, those are the names for the Hall of Fame. The NFL Honors Awards, the Walter Payton Man of the Year was the Bobby Wagner. Assistant Coach of the Year was the Josh McDaniels. The fans, the Pepsi Max Rookie of the Year, fan voting for Rookie of the Year went to Tyler Show. The Coach of the Year went to Mike Vrabel. Very surprised by that one. Mike Vrabel did a great job, obviously. Obviously, these awards are for the regular season. Mike Vrabel did a great job. He took a team that won 3 games the last 2 years to a division title in a division that many thought they wouldn't win, with the Buffalo Bills being there. But they did. And they got the 2 seed. But I think the job that Ben Johnson did warranted him winning Coach of the Year. I think that should have been Ben Johnson's award. The Bears were a mess, an absolute mess when he got there. And for them to go on the right and winning the division, the NFC North, over the Vikings, who were great last year, over the Lions, who have been great the last few years, over the Packers, who have been really good and traded for Micah Parsons. They won the division over those teams. I know the Vikings lost their quarterback, but they still won the division over those teams. I would have given it to Ben Johnson. That's just me, but Vrabel got it. Comeback player of the year was Christian McCaffrey. Obviously, the first ever protector of the year was Joe Thuney. And I mean, hey, it took all these years. Thankfully, an offensive lineman finally has some sort of recognition. Jeez. Defensive rookie of the year was Carson Schwarzenegger. He was fantastic. Offensive rookie of the year went to Torrey McMillan of the Carolina Panthers. Defensive rookie of the year, defensive player of the year unanimously was Myles Garrett, to no one's surprise. Offensive player of the year went to Jackson Smith-Njigba. And the MVP went to Matthew Stafford. And Matthew Stafford winning the MVP puts the cherry on top of a Hall of Fame career. I think he's going to come back and play next year, but he's a Hall of Famer now. I know there's been some debate with Matthew Stafford. I mean, there was certainly a debate with Stafford before he won the Super Bowl. Post Super Bowl, that debate has kind of quieted down, although you still kind of hear the rumblings and you still kind of hear it of whether he is a Hall of Famer or not, even though that debate has quieted down since he won the Super Bowl. Most people think he is a Hall of Famer now. But if there still was any remaining debate about Matthew Stafford, whether he is a Hall of Famer or not, that MVP just put the cherry on top. He is. So Matthew Stafford with that MVP and now to add on with the Super Bowl championship he won a few years ago, he is now officially, when he retires, on his way to Canton, Ohio. So that's the NFL Honors Awards. Some of the other ones, James Cook won the Jim Brown Award. Buddy Buda Baker won the Art Rooney Award. The Moment of the Year, which went to Caleb Williams' game-winning touchdown pass in overtime. DJ Moore versus the Packers. Ironically, if we counted this towards the playoffs, his throw to one of his throws to the Packers against the Packers in the playoffs, and of course the pass he made to the Rams in the divisional round probably could have been Moment of the Year as well if this was counting the postseason. So the NFL Fan of the Year went to Ed Callahan of the Philadelphia Eagles. That's always cool. So that's the awards. I think they made. This was a close to go back to the MVP. This was close on the MVP. This was the closest MVP race since 2003 with Peyton Manning and Steve McNair, and they won co-MVPs. They shared that award. This was very close between Stafford and Drake May. I thought there was when I saw McDaniels and Vrabel win their awards, I thought Drake was going to win MVP because it just seemed like, if McDaniels won Assistant Coach of the Year, and if Vrabel won Coach of the Year, then surely. Because I think back to 2019, right? Just by thinking of recent memory, or just a few short years ago, Greg Roman won Assistant Coach of the Year. John Harbaugh won Head Coach of the Year, and then Lamar Jackson won MVP. So I was thinking back to that, thinking, okay, if McDaniels won Assistant Coach of the Year, if Vrabel won Coach of the Year, then surely Drake May is going to win MVP. But that was not to be. Matthew Stafford takes home the MVP award, but it was very close. It was very close. We'll go to wrestling very quickly before we wrap up the show. Obviously, this is a quick one. And hey, the Super Bowl is on, so got to go watch the Super Bowl. In about 2 hours or so. We'll talk a little bit of wrestling. Have to talk about the segment on Monday Night Raw to close the show with CM Punk and Roman Reigns. It is, as Adam Pearce says, it is official. CM Punk versus Roman Reigns in the main event of WrestleMania 42 for the World Heavyweight Championship, not the WWE Championship, the World Heavyweight Championship that they created 2 or 3 years ago because Roman Reigns is holding the Undisputed Championship for 4 or 5 years and they didn't book anybody to beat him. So they needed to add something. Seth Rollins was talking about adding it. They finally added it. And a few years later, just a few short years later, it is main eventing night 2 of WrestleMania. It didn't main event last year. It actually opened night 2 of WrestleMania last year with Seth Rollins. Actually, Seth, obviously, of course, main evented WrestleMania night 1 in Philadelphia as the World Heavyweight Champion, then defended it the next day later in the opener. But even still, the title wasn't defended in that main event. It will be defended here, and guess who? It involves Roman Reigns. So CM Punk and Roman Reigns main eventing the show, main eventing WrestleMania. So that means they got to build to this segment. They had to build to it. Roman Reigns, of course, won the Royal Rumble. So to the surprise of virtually nobody at this point. But Roman won the Rumble, so now it was the build. Now you have to build to it. And is Roman going to be there? And what kind of feud is this going to be? Is this going to be a wrestling feud, or is this going to be a feud with, bells and whistles, pop and circumstances, or as they call it, cinema. The Roman Reigns cinema promos, right? I have no doubt we'll get Roman Reigns type cinema promos and cinema segments and stuff like that. I have no doubt we'll get that. But what's it going to be for the most part? Well, on Monday, they kicked it off very well. That was a great back and forth between Punk and Roman. And you got into their history. You got into their little bit of history and their both personal and storyline beef with each other. They were both on fire with their promos. Punk was great as usual. Roman had his A game on, thankfully. And they really put over the importance of this feud, the importance of this match, the importance of winning the World Heavyweight Championship. My only gripe, and I think it's been the gripe of a lot of people, despite how much this promo has been great, was how they treated Drew McIntyre. Drew McIntyre was the WWE champion. He's obviously not going to main event night 2 of WrestleMania. It looks like he's going to main event night 1 with Cody and maybe Jacob Fatu. But Punk and Roman really, really laid it into Drew McIntyre. Something tells me, this is just a theory, that this was the Office not being, this was the Office. Maybe this was the Office's message to Drew McIntyre. That they weren't exactly happy with him and his performance in the match with Sami Zayn at the Rumble, because that wasn't a very good match, really. Or it was, I shouldn't say not good. It was just underwhelming. And it didn't have anything really on it. Because again, and that really wasn't Drew or Sami's fault. It was just nobody really felt Sami would win. But the match was underwhelming. So it felt like this was the Office sending a message to Drew. Like, Drew, you got to step up. These are the 2 guys that really are the top stars, and you're just kind of holding the belt. That's what it felt like. And the way they really just undermined Drew, I didn't agree with that. I didn't like it, because you really made your WWE champion, who was supposed to be the top champion, because he's got the main belt. You made him look like a bum. Made him look like a chump. Punk just blasted him away. He did the whole thing with the fans of, see ya, Punk, Drew McIntyre. And Roman's like, I beat him 3 straight years. I don't care. I beat him 3 straight years. Punk's like, I beat him. It's like, I get it. Punk is trying to like tell Roman, hey, you want my belt, you don't want Roman, you don't want Drew, you want my belt. And Roman's like, I don't really care. I'm not going to fight you I'm not going to fight you because of Drew. I'm fighting because I hate you. I'm fun. So I don't think Drew needed, but did Drew needed to be blasted like that? I don't know. It just seemed like lower class like that. I don't think so. I think there certainly was better ways to handle that. There were certainly better ways to put over your match and put over the world title than just throwing the rug under Drew McIntyre and the WWE Championship like that. Drew had a good promo on SmackDown a few days ago in response, which I thought was good. It just feels like to me like that promo really did a lot to kind of just undermine him. But other than that, I did enjoy it overall in general, most of it, obviously, with the Drew McIntyre stuff kind of withstanding. I thought Punk and Roman did a good job to build to the match. Obviously got a lot of excitement for this match. And this match feels like the night 2 main event, and it is. It's going to be the night 2 main event of WrestleMania, the match that closes out the entire show. And CM Punk for the 2nd year in a row will main event WrestleMania. He main event last year's WrestleMania, and now he's going to main event this year's WrestleMania. Night 1 last year. This will be night 2 this year. And he will, for the first time since WrestleMania 28 against Chris Jericho, he will walk into WrestleMania as a champion. So I think that's really cool. The question is, who goes over? I think the majority and consensus sounds like Roman Reigns will go over. I'm hoping Punk goes over and he drops the belt to Braun Breaker on Monday Night Raw the next day. That is what I'm hoping for, because I also think Roman's, motivation to win the title is, I don't know, kind of selfish. It's very much, especially coming off that McAfee interview, it's very selfish, So I think Punk should retain and then have Braun and then drop the belt to Braun, who beat Seth Rollins at WrestleMania, because I think him and Seth are going to wrestle at WrestleMania. You would have Punk win, retain, and then Braun beats him tomorrow night on Raw. the next night on Raw. But I think it just feels like Roman's going to win. And if he does win, then I think he should drop the belt to Braun the next day later. But especially if he wants to put over young guys and really, make a young star, that Roman was talking about on the McAfee show. But, if he wins the belt, he's going to hold that thing for a while, and gosh knows when he's going to drop it. So that's kind of like that. That's kind of the thing with Roman winning. We don't know when he'll drop it. You're just going to be kind of, obviously, a lot of fans will love seeing Roman win the belt again. Of course, a lot of his fans will love to see him win the belt again. He'll have another title reign. That's cool. That's fine. But at the end of the day, I just saw this guy have a 5-year title reign, and he beat the entire roster essentially. So I don't need, which is why I think it's funny when he talks about stars, I made all these stars and all this company can't make new stars on the Pat McAfee show. And I'm like, dude, you beat the entire roster for 5 consecutive years. But I digress. I think the consensus is Roman's going to win. It just feels like he's going to win. If he does win, he should drop the belt to Braun Breaker the next day. But we'll have plenty of time to talk about that match between CM Punk and Roman Reigns, because CM Punk is going to face more than most likely face Finn Balor in Chicago in a few weeks. And who knows when we see Roman on TV again? Probably sometime after Chicago. So we'll see. But that will do it today for this edition of MazzaOnSports. Thank you guys so much for tuning in and listening. Please give this video a like, share, and subscribe. Thank you guys so much. Enjoy the Super Bowl. If you're in the area of the Northeast, or if you're here in New York like me, please stay warm, stay home, stay safe. It's too cold. So sit back and enjoy what will hopefully be a good Super Bowl. So thank you guys so much for tuning in and listening, and thanks, for watching. I greatly appreciate it, and take care.